Well, hello, this is Deborah Johnson, and our focus of this podcast is helping those at mid-career, half-time of life, move forward and answer what's next. And today's topic is wonderful, enjoying life without losing focus. And there's been so much talk about work-life balance, and it's become a huge buzzword with living purposefully and with boundaries. What does that mean? Especially at this point of our lives. The idea of enjoying life while staying focused, it can feel like walking on a tightrope with how busy our lives are. But it is possible and essential. We can laugh and take ourselves less seriously to be more fun and a lot less dry, mundane, and even boring. And in our busy lives, we take time this week to share some good reminders for living fulfilled lives and maybe even having more fun. So stay tuned.
This podcast is brought to you by DJ Works Media and HalftimeSuccess.com, offering resources and insights for those at mid-career or the halftime of life. Explore our diverse categories, including courses, coaching, health, music, software, and travel. We're here to help you make this stage of life your best ever. So get our new articles, downloads, and podcasts by signing up for weekly updates at goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. Now, let's dive into today's episode.
I often remember the lyrics of a simple song I sang in a choir. Always in a hurry, always in a hurry, always in a hurry, day and night. In fact, I can still remember the melody. And I never wanted my life to demonstrate those lyrics. But some days, it just feels like it does, especially when I'm trying to get a project all the way done. Now, usually with those projects come with self-imposed deadlines. And for anyone who's raised children, well, those lyrics may describe many of your days and nights. I know they did mine. But we do have choices. Our busyness is not a badge of honor, and life doesn't have to be filled with activities every second of the day. The idea of enjoying life while staying focused, it can feel like an impossible balancing act. Yet the ability to both savor some of those moments of life and remain on course with our personal and professional goals, it isn't just desirable. Really, it's essential. Without the ability to laugh and just take ourselves a little less seriously, we can become dry, mundane, and even boring. So how do we keep our focus while we take time to enjoy more of life? Well, here today, we will approach 4 principles that serve really as good reminders. And number 1, I love this. The hustle culture is a myth. Well, anyone who grew up in my era, you probably remember that Enjoy perfume commercial. And I remember more about the commercial than the perfume, where the woman sings about bringing home the bacon, frying it in a pan, and never letting her husband forget he was a man. Well, that would never air today. But the amount of multitasking done by women and men is more prevalent than ever. For decades, the hustle culture has glorified the grind, the idea that relentless work and busyness is the only path to success and fulfillment. Now, while dedication and perseverance, they are certainly important, especially if in a startup or you're taking on a new position, well, this mindset, it can easily lead to burnout and a loss of passion. Focus becomes forced, driven by obligation rather than just our vision and our purpose. And meanwhile, opportunities to enjoy life are often sacrificed in the name of productivity. We don't have time for those extra activities. But studies and real-world experiences, they've shown us that people who find ways to incorporate joy, rest, and play into their lives, well, they're often more productive and creative in the long run. And I find there are times I get more ideas, creative ideas, when I go outside with my clippers to trim the plants or the trees in our yard than continuing to sit at my computer trying to brainstorm or get a project done. I just needed to give my mind a rest. So when we give ourselves time and space to recharge, we can return to our work with renewed energy and fresh perspective. And we know this, but do we do it? As an example, when Ariana Huffington, she was the founder of the Huffington Post and Thrive Global, she collapsed from exhaustion in 2007, and she became a leading voice on the importance of rest, well-being, and joy in achieving lasting success. And Huffington frequently shares that prioritizing sleep, mindfulness, and play, it isn't a luxury, but a strategy for performing at your highest level. And you can find a lot of this in her book, Thrive. Now, mindfulness is a buzzword with multiple meanings, but for our use here, I will use it in relation to engaging fully with whatever we're doing, whether it's working on a business project or if it's having coffee with a friend, listening and being present. So this type of focus, it helps us resist the urge to multitask, which it often leads to scattered attention and diminished enjoyment. And one of my favorite places to reflect and read, especially a magazine, it's in the bathtub. And it's incredibly relaxing and gives me 20 minutes at least to not only enjoy the warmth, but to take a total break from any sort of stressful thoughts or others. I can just totally refocus. So number 2, create a values-centered life. Reviewing our core values, often it helps us stay on course. And it's from those values that we define a strong purpose and specify our goals. Enjoying life and staying focused requires clarity. And without a clear sense of what matters most, it's easy to get swept up in all of those distractions that offer usually temporary pleasure, but they leave us unfulfilled. Now, Howard Schultz, in his memoir, Pour Your Heart Into It, How Starbucks Built a Company One Cup at a Time, and he outlines his goals as well as his values. And when he faced a tough business decision, well, Schultz, he took solo walks to reflect and refocus. I love that. And when he faced burnout, he just stepped down as CEO from Starbucks in 2000. And he later returned, refreshed and with a renewed focus. And his family and faith, it also provided a strong foundation for slowing down and reflecting on what was most important in his life. And he states in his second book, Onward, that success is empty if you arrive at the finish line alone. And for me, enjoying moments with cappuccinos or a glass of wine with my husband on our patio, well, they're well worth the time. And I've gained some wonderful insights in those moments and just fun as we sit and talk. So take time to define your values, your goals, and your priorities. What do you want your days to be filled with? And who do you want to become? And who do you want to spend time with? And this clarity, it helps filter out the noise and even the bad influence. And it allows you to say no to things that don't serve your larger purpose. And even if they're enjoyable at the moment. And at the same time, it enables you to say yes to experiences that align with your values, from meaningful work to moments of rest and connection. So number 3, the role of boundaries. Create them. Well, it can be quite embarrassing if you lose your grip on a bowling ball and just drop it in the lane as it falls into the gutter. Or worse yet, propel the heavy ball to go behind you, scattering a group of people faster than oil separates from water. Now, both of those embarrassing situations have happened to me. And even though I've obtained more than a few strikes while bowling in the past, I've never been one who excels at most any sport. I mostly remember, though, those gutter balls I executed with no chance to even knock down one pin. And most realized to achieve a decent score in bowling, the ball has to stay within the boundaries of the lane. Now, bowling is a really good visual example of staying on track. If you watch any of those professional leagues where you can see all these antics and movements before the ball is finally released, but no matter what movements are made before the ball is released, it's still focused on staying right on course. to travel down the lane for knocking over those pins. Now, bowling boundaries they're a powerful illustration of how important certain boundaries are in our lives. Our core values provide those good guidelines for our personal and our professional boundaries. And if it's been a while since you've revisited those values, we've just talked about those, now is the time to do so. And I go more into depth on creating those values in the appendix of my Stop Circling book. But there are two main categories under the umbrella of values. And one is faith, and the other is character. And if we don't know what we believe in and what we stand for, well, it's easy to let time, energy, and technology use and even all of these relationships fall into the gutter. And creating structured time for reviewing those values with both focused work and intentional rest and play, it allows us to show up fully in each area. Then when we're working, we're all in. And while we're relaxing, we're not feeling guilty or distracted. So those boundaries, it protects both our priorities and it makes space for both discipline and fun. So number 4, beware of the lack of focus. Our world is full of distractions. But our little dog, Amelia, has laser focus. Well, she's part terrier, and that hunting instinct, it's hardwired into her tiny frame. Despite being a little over 7 pounds, she charges after anything that moves, especially if she thinks she's guarding me. Well, recently, she managed to scare a rat straight into our pool. Yes, a rat. And for the record, I did not know rats could swim until I witnessed this one doing laps for its life. Now, Amelia, undeterred, she kept her eyes locked on that soggy intruder until we could fish it out. Well, I'll spare you some of the details of the rat's final moments, but let's just say that was both his first and last swim. Well, now that's focus. The lack of focus, it easily leads to distractions, which not only interrupt our work, but our friendships. Whether we're working on a business project or we're having coffee with a friend, well, a clear focus, it helps us to resist the urge to multitask, which often leads to scattered attention and diminished enjoyment. We can find ourselves suddenly just thinking of all the things we've left undone instead of enjoying the moment or engaging in a fun conversation. Now, I'm speaking especially to the type A's here, including myself, but this applies to everyone. With a clear focus, ridding ourselves of all of those distractions, we gain a deeper satisfaction from our experiences. A walk outside can refresh us as we're able to enjoy just being away from our desk and our phone. And it's much more refreshing than hours of mindless scrolling. And in the same way, a focused hour of work, it can yield better results than an entire distracted day. Now, the book Deep Work by Cal Newport, well, he approaches this in detail, and it's worth reading and applying. So let's apply this, what we talked about today, just a few principles. Assess your mindset. Let go of the need for perfection or balance in every area of life. And use delegation wisely to balance work and life responsibilities to just free up some time and space to just rest and recharge. It's okay. Revisit your core values. Ensure that your daily work and life, they align with what matters most to you. Your time is your most valuable resource, at least one of them. So take time to reflect, connect with friends, and enjoy moments of laughter, even at yourself. So set healthy boundaries. Protect your time and energy and know your limits. Know where those bumper lanes are. Guide your sleep time and carve out moments just for you, even something as simple with a quiet bath. Just doesn't it sound relaxing? And review your priorities regularly. Focus on what truly matters. And when distractions creep in, remember the power of a single-minded focus, like little Amelia and her rat mission. It's such a great visual and such a good reminder. Well, make sure you get the article that comes with this. Every single week, I put out articles, and you can make sure you get our newsletter to not miss a single one. They're also on LinkedIn. But again, my purpose is to help you at mid-career, halftime of life, maximize your skills, maximize your experience, maximize your resources at this point of life. There's just so much ahead, and none of us know how long we have. But there's so much purpose and things that we can do at this point of life that's freeing, that's fun, very, very purposeful. So that is much of my purpose here, and to help you at mid-career, halftime of life. And I thank you so much for joining me. It's always a pleasure to bring these messages to you at least once a week, sometimes twice. I have a lot of guests as well. And of course, my husband's on with me once a month. So don't miss those. That's a lot of fun. So I will look forward to being with you again next time. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you for joining us. It is because of our wonderful listeners like you that we keep going strong week after week. We'd love it if you'd share and follow us to not miss a single show, and even write a review. You can also find all of our articles, products, and links at womenathalftime.com.